Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself, Anne Welsh. Today's conversation is really about following your dreams. Have you had a dream that you really are truly strong about, but not quite sure if you should leave your comfortable job, paying you great amounts of salary, giving you all the life benefits to chase your dream? Well, my guest, founder of FLOWERBX, did just that. Whitney Hawkings left a job that was paying her very well, that had all the perks to go and chase a dream. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about my guest. Whitney is the founder of the online luxury florist FLOWERBX. Her career began aged 23 as an assistant to Tom Ford, during this time as creative director of Gucci. After he left to establish his enormous label in 2005, Whitney joined him and worked her way up to become Ford's Senior Vice President of Communication. After realizing that flowers were the one product she couldn't buy in an elegant and consistent way online, she stepped up FLOWERBX in 2015 in her spare time, but eventually left her role with Tom Ford the next year. FLOWERBX is now an award-winning brand and has been described as the go-to florist in Europe for the fashion sets. They guarantee to, when you order your flowers, whether to your home, to your office, wherever you are in Europe, in the UK, for example, you will get your flowers immediately in one piece, perfect condition. I'm truly amazed because this is an entrepreneurship story, a story of deciding, should I leave that faith and start my own dream? So many of you will be wondering, I want to go there. I want to start my own business. I'm not quite sure how to get there. This conversation is really truly for you to ask yourself if you're ready, and even if you are ready, how do you overcome that challenges that come with running a business, all that pain and struggle to still find your joy? Meet my wonderful guest, founder of FLOWERBX, Whitney, as she shares her own story. Well, welcome everyone again. Welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself, Anne Welsh. Today's conversation is one that will blow your mind away. Are you an entrepreneur looking to, grow your business? Are you looking to become successful, not understanding why is my business not going where I want it to go? Are you in pain, worried about how do I make this business work? Well, my guest today will be telling you her own journey and how she found her own joy along the way. But before we get started, let me just give you a brief, headline about her. Her business is destined to be the #1 business globally if you're into flowers. If you're out there looking for flowers, an online business, you go out there, you order it, and in no time, you get your delivery. The founder, Whitney, will be telling you how she started this journey and why she believes this business is not just here to stay, it's here to dominate globally. Meet my wonderful guest, Whitney. Whitney, how are you?
Gosh, what an amazing introduction. I hope I live up to your incredible words. It's so great to be here, and thank you so much for having me. I've admired your work for so long, and it's such an honor to be on your show.
Oh no, absolutely. Your work, because when people think about flowers, we don't think that there is an emotional thing to flowers, or there is a business to flowers, or there is anything to flowers, but you've made flowers not just something that anybody now could have access to it in just a click of a button. You've also made it very attractive and easy for people to access. But before we get into all of that, can you tell us, who are you?
So my name is Whitney Hawkings. I guess I'm a mom foremost to 3 fabulous children and a wife, but I also am a founder and an entrepreneur of FLOWERBX. And I started FLOWERBX after working for the designer Tom Ford for almost 2 decades. And It really started, I mean, people always ask me, oh, did you always want to be a florist? And I'm like, no, I never wanted to be a florist. And I still don't want to be a florist. It came out of a solution to something that was missing in my life, which I think often the best ideas come from. So I was a working mom at that point, working for Tom, working day in and day out, really long days. And I was buying everything in my life online, like most working moms do. I was buying my groceries online. I was buying my beauty online. I was buying my clothes online. But if I wanted to have, say I was having friends over for dinner, I wanted flowers in my house. I didn't want to go to a florist and spend hundreds of pounds on flowers. I just wanted, and I didn't want an arrangement or a bouquet. I just wanted, like you have beautiful peonies behind you. I have just some plain white tulips. I just wanted simple, beautiful, 10 hydrangea on a side table. So I would found myself going to the Covent Garden Flower Market in London. Or when I was living in Paris, I would go to Hanchis, which is the equivalent of the Covent Garden Market. And I was like, there I was in stilettos and a pencil skirt because I had Tom in the office at 9 in the morning. And I was like, how come I can't order just simple, really fresh, really, single variety bunches of flowers online? So that was one side of the reason why I started FLOWERBX. And the other side was whenever I was sending flowers, and I think we've all had this experience, I was pretty disappointed most of the time with what I was sending. I'd say, oh, I want all pink roses. And I'd see a picture of what ended up being sent. And it was basically whatever the florist had to get rid of in their shop. And so what I thought was everything in the world has been branded, from razor blades to socks to, you go to Gucci in London, in Tokyo, in Shanghai, in Dallas, and you're getting the same branded experience. You're getting the same consistent product. You're getting the same wrapping paper and the same ribbon and the same logo. But with flowers, there was this real inconsistency to floral gifting. So I set out quite ambitiously, it turns out, to create this global flower brand. So, Interflora and most of the other global players in the flower industry, they use local fulfillment. So if you call to order flowers in Manchester, they just find a florist in Manchester to fulfill the order. I didn't want to do that. I wanted for us to fulfill the order and to guarantee the FLOWERBX quality, the FLOWERBX consistency, the FLOWERBX branded experience. So I didn't maybe realize how ambitious of a goal that was when I started.
Well, Whitney, when you look back at your life, right, what you did was so ambitious. It was something that hasn't been done before. And this is normally when we women look back and think about an idea, we're so scared because we always heard that thing in our mind, we can't do it. It will never be done. No one's going to take you seriously. What gave you, in your background growing up, what gave you this ambition that you actually shouldn't really think much about it and just go for it?
Oh, I did think a lot about it and I was terrified. So it wasn't like I was just had it in me and I just fearlessly went for it. I got to the point I had always wanted to do something on my own, but I also had the best job in the world. I mean, I was working for Tom Ford, who was at the peak sort of his career. I was right hand to him. So I had people had hunted me often throughout the 2 decades I was working for Tom, but I knew I had the best job in the world. If I was going to have a job, that was the job in the world. So it was really hard to leave it. But, Tom always said to me, you have to have a 10-year plan. It's so important to have a 10-year plan. And I remember in my 20s, my 10-year plan was just to work all the time. And then I was turning 30 and my 10-year plan was to have a family and to, while simultaneously growing my career. And then when I started FLOWERBX, I was turning 40 and I was pregnant with my 3rd child. And I was like, wow, is this my 10-year plan to be like, am I going to be 50, which I could have easily done. Am I going to turn 50 and still be working for Tom and getting him a Diet Coke when he was thirsty? And I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. So I think, but it was terrifying. It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And I really, for the first 6 months thought I had made the biggest mistake in my life. There I was in this freezing cold warehouse in Acton, on a good day, we didn't see mice or rats. But so I was like, what have I done? I went from my fabulous office, my fabulous salary, my amazing wardrobe, my great super, where everyone took my phone call and wanted to have me at dinner parties. You know what I mean? I was like, what have I done?
Did your upbringing, like your parents, did they have given you any encouraging words as a young child that made you persevere? Because sometimes you always remember what mommy said, what daddy said that keeps you going. Was anything, any words that you can remember that kept you going?
Well, my dad started his own company when I was young, and my mom also started a successful company. So I had very early examples of, successful entrepreneurs, and I found that super fascinating. But I also have three brothers, so I feel like I have one daughter and two sons, and I feel like she has to fight harder to be heard and to get what she wants. And she's super fierce. She's 5, but she's super fierce. So I feel like growing up with three brothers also helped give me that sort of determination and drive.
Yes, absolutely. When you think about flowers and fashion, do they go hand in hand from your experience of doing it now?
100%. And I think I was so terrified to leave the fashion industry because it's so hard to belong to the fashion industry. And so I was like, am I really going to give up my hard-earned spot? But they're actually the same thing. It's just a different medium, but we're telling the same story. It's a story of beauty. It's a story of like, something almost fleeting beauty and like these optimal moments of beauty. Also, people in fashion use flowers as a currency, basically. That's their language. So I'm still dealing with the same people, the same brands, the same PRs, the same magazines. It's just not with clothes as the medium, as with flowers as the medium. So yes, I think people who love fashion are people who also love flowers, because it's people who love beauty, really.
Yeah. Whitney, I have to ask you this question because it's something that a lot of people will be asking themselves, oh my goodness, she left such an amazing career. What lessons did you learn from your 19 years working with Tom Ford? What are some of the lessons that you learned by working with someone who is such an ambitious person and achieves that massive success for himself?
Oh, everything I learned in my career, I learned from Tom. It was my only job. But I think, the importance of hard work. No one I know works harder than Tom does. I think, staying true to a vision and not wavering, the ability to edit. He's also an exceptional editor. The things that he gets rid of are actually what is responsible for his success. If you put down all the clothes that he made every season, it would, he has a very, very keen ability to edit and to get rid of anything superfluous, which is something I try to think about all the time. I'm so often saying, oh, what would Tom do? What would Tom do? The ability to create an identifiable brand and stay really true to that brand in everything that you do, which is really hard because opportunities come and there are things you're like, oh, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should try this, but it's very hard to say no and to stay really focused on the core mission, which is something that I have really tried hard to do with FLOWERBX and stay really true to the brand that we've created. But and I also think motivating and rewarding a team is something that he does exceptionally well, that I hope I do half as well with FLOWERBX.
Oh, okay. The beautiful day when you decided, okay, I have to make this leap of faith. I have to do this. This is a difficult decision. And I think it gives so many people anxiety, causes them depression to think about, you have this perfect world here where everything is easy. Then why are you stepping away from this world to go explore something that will work, but it will take a lot of God? Can you describe that story for our audience to understand that challenge you went to go from Tom Ford to becoming the entrepreneur FLOWERBX founder?
It was literally the hardest thing I've ever done in my life and the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. But I think the alternative, which was to not do it, got to be scarier to me than actually doing it. So I think the alternative for me made it that it basically forced me to do it because I couldn't not do it. But so many people are like, do you wish you had done it earlier? And I don't. And I feel like there's so much pressure to have that idea. And I even put pressure on myself to have an idea or to go out on my own earlier. But in fact, all of my experience, all of my contacts, all of my maturity, all of everything I needed to make FLOWERBX a success. And I think if I started it 10 years earlier, I don't think it would have been as easy. Well, it's not, there's nothing easy about it, but I think it would have been harder to make it a success. I also am at a stage now in my life where I don't have tiny children, so I have more time to dedicate to FLOWERBX. I don't have the guilt I might have had I done it 8 years earlier or 9 years earlier. So I think anyone who's putting pressure on themselves to do it now or never, there are plenty of women who are 40 who start, you know, or 50 or 60 that start their own businesses and they're huge successes. And I think just use all of your time building that foundation. And that is meeting people, it's doing things, it's getting experience, it's gaining knowledge, it's learning everything you can. And then you have it all and you apply it to whatever you decide to do.
Well, Whitney, what would you think about, you know, now you're an entrepreneur, what were some of the challenges you had to face of being an entrepreneur in now saying, okay, this is something you said, okay, I want to go into this. What are the challenges of actually starting a business? What did you find?
I mean, what is not a challenge? Everything is a challenge still. I keep thinking like, when are we not a startup anymore? But I feel like everything's a challenge every single day. I think people are a very big challenge because, you know, at the beginning you hire whoever you can hire, but obviously once you start growing, then you need to hire more specialists in different fields. And that's always a challenge to get the right team fit, the right cultural fit, the right skill set. And people are just an endless challenge because the second you think, okay, that's it, we're humming, you know, someone leaves or someone, you know, so I think that's an ongoing challenge and the business grows. So your needs just become completely different. You know, now our needs are completely different than they were 4 years ago. And we need to become much more specialized and we need to become much more international. And we need, you know, we have a huge growth opportunity in the US right now. So obviously we need different people than we needed for growth in the UK. So I think it's just a constantly evolving shuffle of team and people. So that's a big challenge. Tech is a really annoying challenge because I think, you know, if you're not a tech person, which I'm not, I don't know. So you're sort of at the mercy of other people telling you what's possible and what's not possible and what it costs in different timelines, which I find really frustrating because it's not something I can even say, oh, that's not true, or that's not accurate, or that, you know what I mean? So that I find frustrating. And then, you know, working with a perishable product, like flowers are dying the second you get a hold of them. I mean, I woke up this morning, like looked at the temperature because all I know is if it's freezing, like flowers are dying. So I think perishability is also a huge challenge that's innate in the flower industry, but it also gives us an opportunity to nail it where no one's really nailed it before.
And how do you find overcome these challenges? Because you've really done so well. I mean, on a click of a button, I could get a flower delivered to my house in London instantly. How have you managed to overcome that challenges to find your, you know, your joy to be able to balance this with also with your work and your kids as well and your husband? How have you done it all?
Well, first of all, having a great team, like a great team. Our COO has been with me now for almost 3 years and he like makes everything possible at work. And then I have a great husband and partner at home who makes everything possible at home. So I think just acknowledging that you cannot do everything by yourself and building the right team to make sure everyone's balanced and happy most of the time. And I think also just letting go of guilt. I mean, my kids are super excited by what I'm doing. They've been a part of every single bit of it. They've packed boxes, they've delivered flyers, they've delivered flowers, they've loaded the van. They know what we're doing and they are part of it. So I think bringing them all along on the journey is really key. If not, they end up resenting, you know, your time away. And so they're all part of it.
I love that answer because so often you find parents trying to separate the two and not really involve the kids in their day-to-day activity. And I think the kids they're questioning, are you really working because you're working from home, or what exactly do you do? They have no concept of what you do. But I think that what you've just said is something that I would actually take on board in terms of involving my children in what I do, getting them to be more a part of it rather than trying to separate it. Say, no, just go there. You don't need to know what I'm doing. It's not, you're too small, but no one is too small. They even a little bit will get them excited about it.
Exactly. And now they'll see like a FLOWERBX ad or a bus, you know, when we had a bus ad going around London, they'd be like, I saw 7 buses on the way to school. So they're part of it. They know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and they're part of it. So I think that's been, you know, helped all of us sort of with the sacrifice that I'm obviously making for FLOWERBX.
You know, they always say with women, the challenges we find with starting a business is sometimes the investors, getting those investors on board, the initial stuff. Did you find that challenging when you wanted to start the business? Did you have to rely on investors, or were you fortunate to be able to do it yourself?
No, so we started it ourselves, but it was very clear very fast that if we wanted to, the brand landed, it resonated, people jumped on board. But if we wanted to really grow, we needed investment that was more investment than I could make personally. So luckily, Natalie Massenet, who founded Net-a-Porter, she's a neighbor. She was a neighbor in London and a friend. She's like, if you're ever raising seed capital, please give me a call. And I remember we got to that point. It was like 8 months in, and I was like, God, it's so embarrassing asking someone for money. But then, I didn't realize like it's actually a great opportunity letting someone invest in but I didn't see it that way. I was like, oh, that's so embarrassing. And I had that thing that a lot of women have about being embarrassed to ask for money. Now I'm shameless. But so she came on board as one of our early angel investors and brought an amazing group on board. Mark Seba, who had been the CEO of Net for 16 years, he came on board as our chairman, and Carmen Bousquet came on board as another investor. So I automatically had this amazing group of super supportive, really strategic angels that they helped reputationally, they helped give me credibility, they helped because they were brand ambassadors, and they also gave me confidence. Having Mark Seba as our chairman, early on, he would go to meetings with me. He would help draft memos for me, draft letters, draft employment contracts. So having that gave me such confidence, especially in the early days when I had no idea what I was doing.
So when so many women will ask, how did you let go of that fear? Because that's something that most women deal with. They find it challenging. Men are just comfortable. They would just go to the thing and find a group of investors to support them. But you see very, very few successful women. How did you get over that fear to say, okay, I think this is time and I need to do this for the business and not really overthink this process?
I think for me, fear is sort of like exercise. It's sort of like when you exercise, it doesn't feel good, but then you're done and you're like, I just did that, and you feel stronger because of it. And I feel like going through fear for me is like, it's an exercise, and I don't like it, and it's uncomfortable. But then I feel like when I'm done, I'm never like, oh shoot, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I always feel really happy that I did it. And I think just faking it, honestly, just faking it, because you have to fake it. And part of, I wouldn't be here right now if I had just not done anything that terrified me. I now, like, if I don't do something every day that terrifies me, then I feel like I'm like, oh, that was a boring day. So I think starting to feel that as a good feeling and not as a bad feeling, and to embrace it as a good feeling that you get through, I think is what sort of drives me and excites me.
Whitney, what advice would you give out to women out there who are thinking of following your path but not quite sure if this is a right strategic move? What advice would you say to them to get them started?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's the best thing I've ever done. I would say, like, be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked in your life, because it is endless. And if you're not working, you want to be working because you're building something, and it literally, you never, ever, ever, ever stop working. So make sure you really feel like you're at a place and a time where you want to give everything to something. And the rewards are all yours too. So it's a great feeling, but I think you have to be at a stage where you're ready to give everything. I would also say, find the right team, find people that you can count on, both at home and at work, because the lows are really low. I mean, the highs are extraordinary and it feels so great. When you're on top of the world, you feel on top of the world, but the roller coaster everyone talks about is very real. Yeah. So find, whether it's find a female founder or a mentor or someone who can help, when the lows are low, or who can say, oh, that happened to me and this is what I did, or, oh, this, give you advice on fundraising or on whatever, part of your journey you're on. I think surrounding yourself with people who have done it before, who are maybe ahead of you, and then also people behind you. So you just form a little network of people that can support you and help.
What would be your advice to someone who has got to that stage, but the financial bit is always, because why I'm asking this critical question, I'm looking at all the women who are surrounding me right now, and they admire your work, and I'm really blown away by what you've achieved. Because before we normally have our conversation, we like to ask a few people, what kind of questions would they like me to ask in terms of how would that help their business? And I think a lot of people ask is the question about confidence. How do you grow your confidence and to be able to stand in a room and talk about your product very confidently? Can you talk about that?
That again is a very learned sort of, it's the same as fear. I think you just have to keep faking it until then you're in a room, in front of 100 people and it doesn't scare you. But it definitely terrified me, for years, I would say, even at the beginning. But I think I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. I'm so passionate about the product we're selling. I'm so passionate about the experience, for the entire customer experience of what we're doing. I'm so confident that we are providing a solution for so many people that, that we are providing a better product and a better service and better quality and a better overall floral experience than anyone has ever done globally. And I feel very confident in that. So because of that, it's very easy for me to say, we have a superior product. We have a superior experience. We have, and it is that much superior. Even I was in the country over Christmas in the Cotswolds, and, I ordered flowers because I was having friends coming to stay. And I was like, wow, like every single bit of this experience was flawless, from the recyclable packaging to the compostable flower, water pad and the flowers, to the flowers that lasted like 12 to 14 days. And I was like, this is just better than anything I could buy. So I think that confidence comes from the fact that I know we're doing something that no one else is doing.
Absolutely. What next for FLOWERBX?
Global domination. No, I mean, the US is a big nut to crack, it turns out. So we, we're on the East Coast and the West Coast of the US. We just closed our Series A fundraising round. So with those funds, we need to really drive growth in the US, because we've only been in the US a year. It's all been throughout COVID, with skeletal teams. So now we really need to go and drive growth in the US. Also a huge sustainability project. So we're, working on becoming a B Corp and already have a lot of the foundations laid. So we need to just formalize and make sure that we are best in class as far as sustainability goes. And so that's like pretty much, that's going to keep us busy, I think, for the next year or two.
Very busy. A final question before I let you go. I know how busy you are. This is a dilemma question, because there's a young guy, young entrepreneur thinking, I'm working, I'm enjoying my job, but I also do have this side business, which I also want to grow. They'll come to you, Whitney, and ask you, oh, Whitney, I really want to make a choice. What advice would you give them between going and choosing? Do they stay in that job, which was high paying like your job, or do they go and pursue their dreams?
That's funny, because I was in that situation. I had started FLOWERBX as a side hustle because I was, as I said, I was pregnant with my third child, and I was like, I had 5 months to go. I was like, I'm not going to leave right now. So I started it on the side, and I saw there was early traction. So I would say, make sure you sort of work out those early kinks and understand if the idea, if it resonates, and if there is a real business there, and if you have a real business plan. And then, Natalie Massenet said to me, she pulled me aside before she invested. She's like, this is never going to be huge unless you give everything to it. She's like, it'll be fine, but it's never going to be huge. And I knew that in my heart of hearts. So I think, get to a point financially and with a sound business to where you can make the leap. And then I'd say, go for it.
I love that advice. It's never going to be huge until you really invest, put all your effort into it. Before I let you go, how would you define hard work? Because so many people use that word hard work, and I get confused myself. I'm never quite sure how to explain what is hard work, because everyone works hard. But when you define hard work, how do you say it as someone who's so successful like yourself? What do you define hard work like?
Hard work, I like define, I guess, as pushing boundaries and pushing yourself, you know, when you feel like, oh, that's enough, just doing more. It's also just a constant quest for sort of perfection and constant. I have such a firm idea of what the goal and my vision is for FLOWERBX. So it's like, and it's sort of, let's say it's at the top of the mountain. So all of my hard work is getting me closer to that goal. So I think it's constantly striving for excellence and for, you know, constantly doing your best and giving everything you have to something. And whether it's something boring or whether it's, you know, something thrilling and terrifying, but giving equal sort of energy and endless sort of energy to something.
Whitney Hawkings, thank you so much, founder of FLOWERBX. Thank you so much for this conversation, and I really, really will be joining your journey and the expansion of FLOWERBX, because I think it's really going to global dominate our way and the way we see flowers, the way we order flowers, and the way we appreciate as well flowers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.